The LA Clippers faced the Washington Wizards again on Saturday afternoon, this time at the Staples Center, and they would be without Paul George, Norman Powell, Reggie Jackson, and Ivica Zubac. How were the Clippers able to come back from a 15-point deficit and win this one? It wasn't pretty. Gonna be talking about the W on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod or subscribe to my YouTube channel known as Dime Dropper, where NBA content will be resuming shortly. And, of course, subscribe to Locked On Clippers. And let me know, today's pinned question is going to be, should Moses Brown play any real rotation minutes for the rest of the season? Because I'm going to be talking about him and the Clippers' small ball lineups and how they were successful in them winning in this game. But there is no better place to start out than the main reason the Clippers won this game, and that is the main man is officially back, Kawhi Leonard. I said it against Boston, but this was his best game thus far. He played a season high in minutes with over 30, and he also had a season high in points with over 30. 32 minutes played, 31 points, and 9 rebounds. And the funniest part about this game for Kawhi was it didn't start out pretty. And, I think that the cold shooting for Kawhi to start the game honestly was correlated to the Clippers' cold shooting to start the game. In a game where you don't have Reggie Jackson, you don't have Norman Powell, you don't have Paul George, those are three really big hubs of offense for the Clippers. And then you have Ivica Zubac, who's the best screen setter on the team, gets offensive rebounds, has just been top 3 player for the Clippers this season, probably top 2 since Kawhi is still getting games under his belt. But he is slowly climbing up those season power rankings right now because the man was 0 for 5 to start the game. But what I realized right away was that the shots that he was missing were shots that he always makes and that they will continue to fall. And one thing about Kawhi Leonard as opposed to Paul George that I've noticed since having him on the Clippers is Paul George will shoot a lot of tougher, long jump shots, and you don't fully have the confidence that even if he's shooting a good amount that they're going to go in. Even though I do say about Paul George as well that the more he shoots, the more in rhythm he is, and the better chance he will have of making consecutive shots and, getting into a rhythm. But Kawhi Leonard does a really good job of using his strength and his post game and his basketball savvy and his fundamentals to kind of get within 10 feet. So when he's constantly shooting the ball around that distance and getting a nice feel of the rim from that close in, eventually he's just going to get the shots to fall and they're going to start going. And that's how I felt in this game. I felt like Kawhi was getting a ton of good shots kind of around the key or right outside the key, and that eventually these shots were going to go, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, as for the rest of the team, no Reggie Jackson, so John Wall started in place of him and didn't have a very good game in my opinion. John Wall missed a lot of jump shots, a couple, again, unnecessary threes that I just think he can do without, but I think I'm just going to be singing that same tune every single post-game recap at this point because I think the coaching staff has encouraged him to shoot threes, and he's going to continue to do it. And he has still made some this season, but in my opinion, it's kind of like there are a lot of NBA players, if you ask them to keep shooting these threes, are going to make 20-something% of them. And John Wall in this game was 1 for 4 from deep. And, that's considering that going into this game, he was shooting 27% from 3, so nothing too great. But I think John Wall's performance was the least of the Clippers, least one of the less important things in terms of talking about this game for the Clips. I think what was interesting was that Moussa Diabate started tonight. So no Moses Brown, who we saw start against Phoenix. You saw Moussa start tonight, and it was better. He only played 18 minutes, but you saw a lot more switching, and the Clippers are going to switch basically everything in that starting lineup. At least 2 through 5, they're going to switch with Marcus Morris, Nico Batum, Kawhi Leonard, and Musa, and they were doing that. And I thought, Kristaps Porzingis got the Wizards off to a really good start. And even though Kristaps Porzingis finished 8 for 19, I thought that he actually has improved a good amount in terms of taking advantage of size. Like, there were a couple times today where Clipper wing players were on him, and that's the way the Clippers kind of took him out of the game when he was at Dallas. Was just switching smaller guys onto him, and he didn't really know what to do. He couldn't really post up, didn't get good post position, and he didn't really show a great use of lower body strength to back his way in. He would kind of just settle for long turnarounds. But I think this game showed that he has matured a little bit in that respect, and he was getting the ball in deeper areas and kind of making some nice shots in the post and nice turnarounds. So Kristaps Porzingis definitely coming some ways. But the Clippers trailed by 8 after 1. They were 7 for 21 from the field after the first quarter. Thought guys like Marcus Morris, Nico Batum, John Wall, these guys got some decent looks, and they just weren't falling. And, of course, for Kawhi Leonard, they weren't falling either. And then the Clips went to a small ball lineup to start the second quarter and to end the first quarter. That was with Diabate coming out of the game. They went with Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, Nico Batum, Luke Kennard, and Terrence Mann, which I really like. No point guard in there because John Wall's on the bench and there's no Reggie Jackson, so you kind of have Kawhi playing a little bit of that point forward role, but you also have Terrence Mann and Luke Kennard dribbling the ball and handling the ball and pick and roll a little bit themselves. And, Terrence Mann, he was missing a lot of shots that he normally makes. He missed some open threes. He was 0 for 4 from deep in this game and went to the basket really nicely a couple of times, but just good contests at the rim, and he missed a couple of easy ones, shots that he normally makes. And then you saw Amir Coffey come in for Kawhi Leonard in that small ball lineup later in that first, which is basically like for like in that, from a schematic perspective. And then Moses Brown came in late in that first quarter. And again, you saw it was a little problematic. All he played was 4 minutes, and he was -7 in those minutes, the worst of any bench player, and also the only bench player for the Clippers in the minus category. And the eye test checks out on that one. I thought Moses Brown, again, same thing we talked about against Phoenix, just dropping way too deep. And he just really wasn't doing a good job of showing and then recovering in that drop coverage, playing two guys at once. Daniel Gafford got a couple of layups and was just showing the athleticism disparity and quickness disparity between him and Moses Brown. And, again, nothing personal with Moses Brown, but I'm starting to question if he really can be a rotation player for this Clipper team. He's just a little too slow in that pick and roll, and against decent to good opposition, he will be exploited. So that's why my pinned question, remember to subscribe on the channel and comment on it today, is do you think Moses Brown should even get rotational minutes for the Clippers? Because the Clippers did find some success in that second unit going small, and they even went with what I ended up calling a Little Tykes unit. And the reason why I say Little Tykes was because it was so unbelievably small. You kind of saw that in the third quarter. But it was John Wall, Luke Kennard, Amir Coffey, Terrence Mann, and Brandon Boston, who you saw come into the game midway through the third quarter. As for the second quarter, I thought that Luke Kennard came in and gave the Clippers a nice boost. He hit 3 threes in the first 3 minutes of the second quarter. 2 on the move, 1 off the catch. But as I said, it kind of seemed like every 3 Luke made, they would answer back with putting Moses Brown in the pick and roll, and they were scoring a lot. And then John Wall, he had 3 mid-ranges where the Wizards went under the screen and were inviting him to shoot that mid-range. He was 1 for 3 in those. So John Wall, he's just got to make those shots. Those shots are going to be given to him all season. I've said it before the season even began. Teams are going to go under the screen. He's got to make them pay. But Kawhi Leonard, you started to see a little preview of that fourth quarter in the second quarter. Second and fourth quarter were his quarters in this game. He had 12 points in the second, getting to his spots, getting to the basket, and starting to see the shots fall, and it was no surprise at all. And I thought Terrence Mann was in his own head. I talk about him missing shots, but I think a couple times he missed a couple of shots to start the game, and then he started overthinking it and passing up a bunch of shots. And there was even one time where it led to a turnover, and it put the Wizards up by 15. But the Clippers, led by Kawhi, did a good job of cutting it down to only a 7-point game at halftime, and they were only shooting 10 for 31 from 2. but 50% from three. It averaged out to 38% overall at the half, while the Wizards were shooting over 50%. But the thing is, the process was good. I thought that the Clippers I just was never nervous they were going to lose this game because the process of the shot that they were getting was good. And in the third quarter, the process continued. Kawhi started to hit some mid-ranges, started to get to the rim. And remember, I said Kawhi, he's not the fastest guy in the world. He's just got to get guys on his hip and create that separation, and he has. And not only that, now that people are starting to see that his jumper's going in, they're starting to push up and guard him a lot tighter, and he's able to just get by them normally, even though he's got maybe slightly less burst right now than in the past, but it's nothing crazy significant. Which brings me to somebody in particular, a media member, who talked about Kawhi Leonard not looking very good. I'm going to be talking about why that was a horrible take and why Kawhi Leonard shut him up in this Clippers win. Coming up, 102.93 the Clippers, going to be talking about the closer Kawhi on the other side. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. On Sunday night, I am taking Julius Randle to get over 10 rebounds, LeBron James to score over 30 points, and I am taking Fred VanVleet to get over 8 assists. And where am I doing that? I am doing that on Prize Picks. It's where you make daily fantasy projections against the Prize Picks player projections. Just pick 2 to 6 players and project if they will score more or less than the Prize Picks projection. You can win up to 25 times your money on any entry. It's no competing against other people, just you and the projections available. And Prize Picks offers projections on any sport that you watch, which includes NBA, MLB, NFL, NHL, college football, men's college basketball, soccer, MMA, everything. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy, safe and fast withdrawals, and currently operational in over 30 states in Canada. Just download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Thanks for making Locked On Clippers your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with the local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, sir. Clippers win it 102 to 93 at the Staples Center. Not very good attendance again, Clipper Nation, only 79%. I will be at the next home game before the Clippers go on a roadie, a nice one to end the year, which will be a big test for the team. Got to take care of business against Charlotte, who the Clippers just beat on the Kawhi Leonard game winner in Charlotte, but LaMelo Ball is back, and Shirley will be trying to put on a show in front of the LA crowd, his hometown crowd, on Wednesday night. But if you are a Clipper fan like myself, let's get to the game. Kawhi Leonard is back healthy. Hopefully we will get Paul George back in that one, but with 3 days rest, there's a good chance you'll be seeing both of them. There's a really good chance, almost 100%, knock on wood, that you'll be seeing Kawhi Leonard. And if that is by itself worth the price of admission right now, because yesterday we had a little Brian Windhorst, longtime ESPN insider, on ESPN talking about Kawhi Leonard doesn't look good. He looks slow. I've been telling you from day one of the preseason that Kawhi Leonard looks better than I expected. If you see how aggressive he's being when he's on the court, he is trying hard to get himself back in a rhythm, to get his legs underneath him on his jump shot. And you are slowly seeing what a couple of healthy games can do. 2 for 5 from 3 in this game. 12 for 26 from the field. If you take away the 0 for 5 start, that's 12 for 21 the rest of the way. So he's working his way back, and I love seeing him get a lot of shots up. Mike Fratello made a point that 32 minutes of play, he got 26 shots up. That's a little under a shot a minute, and I'm taking that, especially when Paul George isn't playing. You want to see that. This was coming. It's just a matter of getting his minutes limit restriction taken off, and it's not fully taken off yet, but you're starting to see it slowly being lifted, and you see the lift that he's getting back in his shot and the confidence that he's playing with. It's still that same Kawhi Leonard aura out there on the court when he's playing. It's a different level of seriousness from the top down, and even as a fan, I have this different level of comfort just watching the games from my couch. It's just this feeling that Kawhi Leonard has brought when he's been on the court to the Clippers since he's arrived. It's that I'm a champion and I was the biggest reason why my team won the championship kind of mentality, kind of aura about him. He doesn't even have to say a word, and you feel it. I felt it in those 2 games I went to in 2020 when there were still sold out crowd, because we haven't seen Kawhi Leonard, at least, before this season, we didn't see Kawhi Leonard with a sold out Clipper crowd until, since the bubble. Since before the bubble, I should say. And in the 2 games I saw Kawhi Leonard play with a sold-out crowd, you could just feel the oohs and ahs were just a little bit different in Staples Center than when Paul George played, or even Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. It was that respect from even the neutrals, maybe the closeted Laker fans that were there. This guy is a champion. And Brian Windhorst clearly is not watching the games, or he doesn't remember what Kawhi Leonard looked like before this injury, because that's why I remember a couple months ago I did an episode where I told you about Kawhi Leonard in his highlights against Utah and Dallas in 2021 playoffs, and how he was barely getting by guys. It was just that little bit of creating separation, getting to his spots, fundamentals, skill to get his buckets. And that's exactly what you're seeing now. And, towards the end of that third quarter, he had 2 shots that were short, and that was just a clear sign of tired legs. He needed to go to the bench, get a little rest. And I thought again in that third quarter, the Clippers, they were hovering around that 7 points, 8 points down the entire second quarter, third quarter after they were down by 15. And they were missing great looks, but I will say the Clippers had a better defensive quarter in the third. Musa was doing a good job moving his feet. Thought Nico Batum was active. I thought Terrence Mann, he played 35 minutes in this game, which was the most of any Clipper, and he had a really interesting game. As I said earlier, missed some easy shots, but he did everything else spectacularly. Like, he defends so hard, he fights over screens, he communicates on defense, he cuts without the ball, he follows up shots on the offensive glass for putbacks, and he got one in this game. And he's great in transition. He constantly puts pressure on the defense by trying to make you guard without fouling when he goes to the rim, and especially when make that hard drive going to his right, gets that shoulder into you. And Terrence Mann, just such a key factor to this Clipper team. In for me, my favorite Clipper probably, either him or Paul George. But ever since that, even before the curse breaker game, I was calling for him to start. Not start, but get minutes even back in the bubble, because I thought that the Clippers lacked perimeter defense, especially when Lou Williams and Reggie Jackson were getting solid minutes out there. But Terrence Mann is an X factor for the Clippers. And honestly, I shouldn't even say an X factor, because the definition of an X factor as it was introduced to me was when he plays well, you win, and when he doesn't, you have a much worse chance. I think Terrence Mann's fairly consistent, because what he does not have anything to do with shot making. He was 4 for 12 in this game, and he played great in my opinion. He was plus 15, which was the highest plus minus of any Clipper. Does that mean he played the best of any Clipper? No. But he had 10 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. He was just phenomenal in the second half, especially, just doing a little bit of everything. And in that little tight lineup at the end of the third quarter, when the Clippers threw in Brandon Boston, along with Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey, Luke Kennard, and John Wall, I was a little bit nervous. But they actually did a decent job switching, staying in front. And I think also you got to acknowledge that Daniel Gafford, he just doesn't have any confidence in the post or taking advantage of size. He didn't do anything to take advantage of the Clippers' tallest guy in the lineup being Amir Coffey. A 6'7" guy was the Clippers' tallest lineup. 5, 6, 7 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, even 25, 30, 40 years ago, that's going to get you laughed at in the NBA. But, there are player skill sets have changed, and there aren't as many guys out there that are going to take advantage of that size. Daniel Gafford being one of them, missed a dunk in that stretch. And the Clippers, they made it a 3-point game to close the third quarter. And then in the fourth quarter, you saw the Wizards take Daniel Gafford out to start the fourth and go against that Little Tyke lineup with the small ball lineup of their own. Denny Avdia, Kyle Kuzma. And in this game, by the way, no Bradley Beal for the Wizards, but they did get Monte Morris and Will Barton back. So those two made it a little bit tougher, especially Monte Morris, he made his first 5 shots. He finished 5 for 9 with 12 points. Will Barton 5 for 12 off the bench, but was 4 for 5 from 3 and made some really tough step-back threes. He had 14 points, so both of those guys were in double figures. Kyle Kuzma was kept a little bit more at bay in this game with 17 points on 8 for 18 shooting. But Luke Kennard and Kawhi Leonard, that's really the reason the Clippers won. I thought the defense was good, but it was a stretch of the game where Luke hit 2 straight buckets when he got run off the line. One was a nice right-handed bank shot floater, and then another one he got to the rim. And then Brandon Boston had a great steal playing one-on-one defense on Monte Morris. Just stripped him, went all the way for the and one, and tied the game. Missed the free throw, and Amir Coffey got the offensive rebound on the free throw and put it back up and in. That gave the Clippers a 2-point lead and got the Wizards to call timeout. That was, I believe, at 80 to 78. Yeah, it was 80 to 78 when Amir Coffey put it back up and in. And then you saw Kawhi Leonard come back in the game and just close the game out. 8 straight points, got into his mid-range area. There was one where he had 2 pump fakes on Kyle Kuzma and shot over him. And then another one where he got an and one, took the bump right after, didn't make the free throw, but 8 consecutive points to kind of just close the deal for the Clippers. And right before that, Luke Kennard did an amazing job of pushing that lead forward. He gave the Clippers the lead with a step back on a pick and roll, and then shortly after, he got run off the three-point line, and he made a beautiful kick out to a wide-open Nico Batum, who I also thought was really good in the second half. And Luke Kennard was such a key for the Clippers, the second best Clipper after Kawhi in this game for me. 20 points for him, 7 for 12 from the field, 4 for 6 from deep. Kawhi Leonard with 31 points and 9 rebounds to go along with 3 steals and a block on 12 for 26 shooting. And coming up, going to be talking about the rest of the supporting cast. A couple question marks I have for some guys and some flowers to give to some others. Going to be closing it out with the role players coming up. BetOnline.net is your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. On Sunday, it is the World Cup final. And to lift the trophy, France are plus 100 right now. And I would take those odds. They're the defending champions. And I think as good as Argentina are, they are still a little bit vulnerable. I would place your bet on Les Bleus to win the 2022 FIFA World Cup on Sunday. And where to do that is on BetOnline. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college bowl season to basketball and World Cup. We've got it all on betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those on BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Just head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, to close it out, I thought Luke Kennard, I want to talk about him a little bit more. I also thought he did a really good job playing defense in this game, sliding his feet, playing intelligently. There was one time where Marcus Morris, who I thought looked very suspect at times on defense today. I thought he had a couple of good closeouts, but there were a couple of times. Like there was one time he was guarding, I don't remember if it was Kuzma or Avdia, but he was just giving him the angle to go away from the help defense all the way to the basket for a right-handed layup. And I was just kind of confused on that. I was like, Mook, you're letting him go to the basket. You're giving him the angle to go to the basket. Then there was another time I don't remember if it was early fourth quarter or late third, where Will Barton, who was like 3 for 4 from deep, was coming up the court, and Marcus was at the foul line, and you knew in his eyes, in his body language, that he wanted to pull up for 3. He does that, Will Barton. And Marcus just kind of sat back and watched him drain it in his face. But Kennard, a couple plays later, stepped up, caused him to put the ball on the floor, and forced a miss for Barton going to his left. And it's just Luke Kennard's out here playing better defense than Marcus Morris now. And that's a little bit of a concern because I thought Marcus Morris in this game, 4 for 10 from the field. Just as I said, defensively looked a little bit slower. He did have 12 rebounds, though, 10 and 12. So that was pretty quiet, I'm not going to lie. I didn't notice that he had 12 rebounds, so at least he impacted the game in that way. And the Clippers did out-rebound the Wizards 49-42, so that was big. They also ended up shooting 41% from 3 and 43% from the field, the Clippers, so it ended up working out. They ended up shooting okay. But Marcus Morris, again, only shooting 40%. And a lot of these were good looks, except 2 of them were just heavily contested threes that were extremely unnecessary, even though it's Marcus Morris and he is a tough shot maker. Just completely unnecessary, some of them. I'm not going to lie. I am a little bit worried about Marcus, whether he's getting fatigued or you're just starting to see the Marcus Morris that we thought we were going to be getting before the season started kind of come back. And him being inconsistent. Because to start the season, he was extremely consistent. He was the consistently 15 points and good defense for the Clippers. Right now, last couple of games, he has not been so great. And what I really want to see is him continuing to play good defense. Because the shots will fall, but continuing to play good defense is really important. His last 10 games, and this doesn't even count this game right now, but let's say his last 9 games, 37% from the field and 33% from deep. That's not great for a guy who on the season is shooting 44.6% and 37.5% from deep. So I hope Marcus Morris has a good game against Charlotte. I think he will. John Wall, I think he had not a great game, to be honest. 9 points, 6 assists. He played 28 minutes, so I think Ty did a good job of going away from him when he knew that it wasn't there for John. I don't think John forced it or anything too much. He had 3 turnovers, still made some good plays. But the jump shot needs to fall from mid-range, and the 3-ball doesn't even need to be taken. There's no reason why 40% of his shots should be threes when he's shooting only 27% from deep. So, not much to say on John. I think he'll be fine. But Luke Kennard, I think we often... By the way, before I get into Luke Kennard, actually, Amir Coffey, 10 points for him and 5 rebounds, 3 for 6 in the field, and made both his threes. Both of them were from the corners. Thought he was really solid in his minutes. +3. Big putback to give the Clippers the lead, 80-78. Again, a solid night for the Brewmaster. And then Nico Batum, just huge plays. Big offensive rebound putback in the fourth quarter. A block, 8.7 rebounds. Just doing all the little things as he normally does. 3 for 7 from the field and made a huge 3. Timely Nico with his threes. 2 for 4 from distance in this game. But Luke Kennard, I think we often forget how much of a difference he can make for the Clippers because he's actually so consistent. So consistent. This was his 20th game of the season. The Clippers are 13-7 in games in which he plays, and they are 5-7 in games in which he does not play. So, yeah, that's not much. That's only 2 games better than what the Clippers are right now at 18-14. But it tells you that Luke Kennard does make a positive difference. And I think with guys like Reggie Jackson, John Wall, even Paul George, and Marcus Morris, they can be inconsistent shooting the ball, even Terrence Mann. Luke Kennard is just a sniper, just one of the best shooters in the world. So for the most part, you can almost guarantee that he will have a decent shooting night most of the time. And what he does in terms of his movement off the ball and the different screens that you can set for him at different spots of the court totally open up the Clippers' half-court offense a lot. So I really want to give Luke Kennard his credit, especially for how he's playing on defense lately. 20 points for him off the bench is just awesome. That's the Clippers' depth that we were raving about to start the season. 42 points for the Clipper bench as opposed to only 27 for the Wizards bench. Another Clipper bench masterclass, another Clipper win. But Kawhi Leonard is the takeaway, the main one. 31 points. He looks fantastic, getting back into his spots, looks fairly unguardable, and he will continue to do so. Just praying that he stays healthy because this is exactly what we've been calling for. The Clippers look so entirely different when Kawhi Leonard is playing. They are now 9-2 when Kawhi Leonard plays, 8-1 when he starts. So take that for data. The Clippers move on to 18-14. They will play against Charlotte on Wednesday night. I will be in attendance at that game. You'll be getting a pod on Monday. Even though there's no game, I'll be thinking of something. Maybe getting a guest on. It's been long. We've been long overdue for a guest. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. And, of course, subscribe to my own YouTube channel known as Dime Dropper. Basketball content will likely be returning by the end of next week on my channel. And, of course, subscribe to Locked On Clippers. Let's continue to get on the road to 2,000 subscribers. Comment on today's pinned question. With Moses Brown's performance today and the performance of the Clippers small ball lineup, Can he even get regular rotation minutes for the rest of the season? Let me know. The age-old proverb stands. Go Clippers. Big win. Kawhi Leonard. Oof, I'm loving it.